This conference will now be recorded.
We'll call the Tuesday, February 4th meeting of the Airport Advisory Commission to order. Can I have a roll call, please, Annie?
Chair Hunter,
Present?
Vice Chair Peterson,
Present.
Commissioner Hitchcock,
Present.
Commissioner Powell, Commissioner McDonald.
Present.
I have a quorum. Okay. All right, first thing we'll do is approve the agenda. I've looked through it and don't see any significant thing that we need to change on it. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda by the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Hitchcock. We have a motion been made and seconded. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, approval of the minutes. By the way, Annie, thank you on the minutes. I know you've been working really hard on those, so thank you for getting those put together.
Good job.
So if everybody would take a look at the minutes, please. I think this layout works really well for our minutes also. Any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of
January 7th.
January 7th, 2025.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify so by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. All right, Bobby, the floor is yours. Let's start with item number 2 under non-action items.
Okay, if you go to the very handy tabs that Annie put on these, if you go to the first little tab,
Thank you for that.
you'll see the non-operating revenue, which of course is grants. And as you'll notice, they spike at a certain time of year, and hopefully they're gonna spike at that time of year today, because that's when the AIP money usually shows up. Of course, as you may have seen, the DOT right now is suspended in putting out money, but hopefully before they usually do the disbursement, they'll have that all figured out.
The January was,
Just,
what grant was it?
oh, in January, that was just reimbursement.
Oh.
Wasn't a new one. And then under operating revenue and expenses, here's the next one. You'll see that we were in the black, and we like being in the black. So we want to continue that trend. You see $105,430.55 to the good.
Yeah, we haven't been
We've been doing
in the red except August last year.
correct.
Didn't used to be that way.
And then, as we talked last month about the building insurance, now all the certified letters have gone to the tenants with the changeover in insurance for them to opt out and get insurance on their own. So that's just in process now. And if you remember correctly, the difference in the billing and what's paid is because of the buildings that the city owns that are vacant. So of course, we still have to insure those.
So if a tenant provides their own insurance, then that comes off of the city's
Correct.
liability. Okay.
So Bobby, the big spike here, the blue line that the city has paid.
Right.
Have they actually paid that?
Yes.
Okay. So they would get reimbursed
Or-
if what happens is what Matt just said?
Well, the insurance revenue, if you see there, you've got 120,000's come in December, another 40,000 in January against, and that's what the tenants paid against what the city insured them for. So beginning in next fiscal year in July is when the tenants can go on their own insurance.
And when we allow a tenant to go get insurance, we give them the requirements or the minimum amount that they have to have.
We do. We tell them the minimum amount for, on the risk portion, for the liability portion, as well as for the structure, which is the same amount the city had it insured for previously.
Okay, so they know they know the,
Right.
yeah, okay.
But even that, the amount that the buildings are actually insured for
It's
is
not
still
replacement cost.
significantly less than replacement cost.
Correct.
Okay, like 75% less than replacement cost?
I'm not sure the
But
percentage amount.
it's a big number. Okay,
Yeah, that's a tough one to do, insure a building that's
But-
functionally obsolete
And 80 years old.
and try to say, hey, you gotta replace it for 5 million if it burns down or something. That's the tough part.
but if we have a major record that somebody's gonna have to pay for it, and it's not gonna be the insurance company,
Yeah,
or you don't replace it.
right, yeah, or you don't replace it.
And given the 80 years, I'm not sure that you can get insurance for that.
Sure.
Or the insurance company would pay what the insurance is and the city then would decide, hey, here's a chunk of money, what do we wanna put here?
Okay, any more questions for Bobby on revenue or expenses?
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Hey, Bobby. So when do the tenants actually make you aware of whether or not they're going to
By,
pay the
was it
city
May?
versus
April.
April this year.
April this year?
End of April? Start of April?
Yes,
And then
we have to let the city know before they do the, purchase the new one,
Okay.
which would come out in July. Am I right, Hess, June? July. June
We
1st.
let them know in May whether or not what buildings will stay on the insurance.
So we better make sure that the tenants start reporting by the 1st of April, not the end of April.
And I've gotten one that says they're gonna stick with the city, but they've all been notified, they've all been certified fund, or lettered out, and I've been receiving them as they sign from.
Okay.
so, Mr. Chairman, my question is those that opt out of the city, and we as a city have paid for all that insurance for whatever the period is,
Right.
will we see a net return back to the city for those buildings?
That's what I just asked.
You know, we're gonna recover some of those dollars since,
Well, yeah,
Or-
that's what this report shows in the
Yeah.
far right-hand column. The current policy apparently expires at the end of June. So we've got 5 more months to collect premiums.
So that $909,000 will obviously be much lower next year, next fiscal year. And that'll be the net savings.
okay, that's
Well, we think it will be. We anticipate tenants getting their own insurance,
Well, enough of them complained about the cost through the city, so.
so they better.
Yeah.
Okay.
If not, that'll tell you what to think about their replacement.
Thank you.
Really?
Good question. Good question.
Okay, any more questions on revenue or expense? All right, Bobby, let's go to strategic plan.
So for covering the items carryover that we're still in process by the strategic plan, you'll have in your packet, the one was the hiring process or engaged aviation industry management, which was ABS Aviation to recruit. So to date, we have 24 applications that HR been going through. And then if you go to the interview, next item, with all the 24, all the ones that the city cared to interview have been interviewed. We thought we had a good candidate that was supposed to be here last Friday. She was a no-show, no call, no text. So evidently she wasn't a very good candidate.
Jeez.
It's been a tough one, no question about it. So,
So we're gonna have to go out again,
well, it's still out there.
still open?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but in talking to city management, they feel that by next month, we should have a qualified person and meet the schedule within the strategic plan based on the history so far.
Okay.
And then the next one was we create a facility assessment. Now, the important thing here is that we're doing this internally. It's been somewhat delayed because of fixing everything from the flood. And as you may have noticed, the terminal still hasn't been fixed. And I didn't see Mac Rogers. Oh, there he is. Mac's going to report on that a little later. But we have started putting that information together. And I think that our own people can do a good job in identifying what's needed by the buildings, and then we'll figure out what we need to do going forward. And the FBO option is an ongoing project. They did have their pancake fly-in a week ago, and they had a better than anticipated turnout. So that was good news, and they're going to try to do one of those every couple of months. So hopefully that will grow. So they did have some aviation traffic come in to get a pancake. The next item is a comprehensive search for funding. Obviously, funding is something we work on a daily basis. We continue to identify needs. Of course, several of us were in Santa Fe a couple of weeks ago, and the mayor and Hess were there again last week. So that's just an ongoing process to do county, city, state, federal, all those options, because we've got a lot of needs. So the facilities management plan and a plan to address the ongoing maintenance, we talked briefly about, but we've also added to that all the rolling stock. So we're going to keep very detailed records on the date of equipment, the miles on equipment, the maintenance history on equipment, so that we can have a good plan going forward on when equipment needs to be replaced based on the financial requirements.
You had mentioned to me last week, referenced the fire truck, which of course is
Yes,
part of the fire department, not the airport, but it operates out here.
and I met with outgoing chief and incoming chief and 2 deputy chiefs last week. Of course, Steve Chavez is now the chief. And we looked at 2 different units. One was what they call 4x4 because it's 4 wheels on each side. That had a 1,500 gallon capacity. Then they looked also at a 6x6, again, 6 wheels on each side. That one had a 3,000 gallon capacity, plus it could do foam. When you look at the type of traffic we have here, especially military operations, if a 1,500 gallon capacity, if one of those C-130s had a problem, you might as well spit on it. You do just as well. So going to seek funding. It's in the 5-year capital plan to have the 6x6, which is about $1.8 million. And interestingly enough, the 4x4 is only 400 and change less.
So does the airport have quite a bit of rolling stock?
All of our equipment that we use, mowers, sweepers, pickups, security vehicles, we've got enough. We need to track it and keep a good idea of what condition it's in and what needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Fortunately, we're very lucky to also have the backup when it comes to snow removal and all the flood things that we dealt with. The DOT has been very, very generous. I don't know what Omar's got on him, but he certainly gets good equipment out of them. And that really helps a lot, prevents us from having to buy it and get things done in a more expeditious manner.
Is that something that we need to make sure that from the city, that the mayor thanks NMDOT for, other than just,
Well, we thank him with a
expecting
very nice lease.
well, okay. I'm just saying that sometimes if you send them a nice thank you note, that helps grease the skids.
Not a terrible idea.
That works good.
Ricky Stoner would be the guy you'd want to send it to.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's been great to work with. The secretary's been very good to work with.
So that may be something we want to just suggest to Amalia, get something written up and have Tim.
Yep.
Sign off on that.
Good idea.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, one question, Bobby. On the rolling stock, especially the vehicles, do you have a vehicle replacement strategy or plan
Well, that's
that you're working
part,
on?
that's part of the idea of
Okay.
getting this done.
Thank you.
And, to have it that's verifiable and why we think it needs to be replaced. And when the maintenance starts costing more, then you know how that goes.
Bobby, in the military, you've got logbooks per vehicle that have criteria.
Right.
Do we have anything like that for our vehicles?
We do not currently, but we're put all in a spreadsheet.
Set PM schedules.
We have we have an app. It's the Fleetio, and all the vehicles are in Fleetio. And they just need to start keeping track of that. That way, you can put notes in it. Went in for oil change. Went in to get this replaced, and it keeps a log of all that. I think that's something maybe we could start utilizing a little bit more.
Yeah.
That would help out a lot.
Well, it's a great idea, but one of the things is the criteria for those things. And of course, in the military, you've got time frames. That stuff is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like it's just like, okay, maybe we got this done.
Yeah.
And so a criteria on a time frame is just a better way. It requires more time for the operator to do something. If you don't have operators doing that, you never really know if you're adequately maintaining vehicles. As opposed to somebody just saying, oh, it looks like we need to change the oil.
Right.
And that is the idea behind this.
Okay, all right.
And not only that, but we don't want 3 vehicles down at the same time either.
No.
So then, the next item, which is the leasing rents and fees policy, Hess and I have been putting things together on that. And that was a ongoing thing because we've got a lot of policies we need to update, which we'll be doing all of this year.
So that one we don't really, even though it was early on, fourth quarter of last year, we don't really have a completion date on that.
But drafts are done.
Okay.
For some reason, the city attorney's been busy.
He stays that way. You gotta
He
get on
does.
his calendar.
He does. Then on the air service development, of course, you did hear a report from Gary Foss in November. About the new state program. We've had some subsequent conversations with him. He's putting some things together for us on that. We're looking at the local match that's required in that program and the revenue sources that could contribute to that. We'll probably be tapping a couple of you to assist with that as we go forward. Oh, John, how you doing? But we do think that that's an important program. As all of us know, we need some westbound flights. And you'll see here in a minute, I'll talk about some of the flights we have had. But that is definitely something we'll be working on very aggressively in this first quarter.
Bobby, did you determine how long we can extend our SCASDAT grant for?
There does not seem to be a sunset on there.
Thank goodness.
And we still have funds there. I believe it's 750,000.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Bobby on strategic plan update? All right. Bobby, go ahead.
And I'm going to take the passenger boarding room. You'll see a tab for that as well. You'll see of course, for this year so far, we only have January, but I'd like you to look at January and be impressed.
And we had in January last year, we already had 3 flights a day, if I remember correctly. So that's significant upside. Matt had indicated that he thought we had some bad weather, a lot of
was a little period there, so that actually would have been a better number.
Okay.
What I was saying is,
And there's just some, and I've asked Annie, we're now tracking all the flights, scheduled time versus actual times, because I don't feel that some of the reporting that the airlines have done are quite accurate, because I've got that wonderful view out the window, and I notice as soon as the door closes on the aircraft, it's departed, and it might still be out there another hour. So oh yeah, it's like when they push back
That's
from a
how the-
gate,
yeah.
when they push back from a gate at a major hub, they consider it departed.
Yeah.
It might be on tarmac another 2 days.
it's not wheels up, wheels down. It's
No. So we're tracking that very closely.
close the door.
How many times in January have they had to de-ice before they could depart? And did it work?
It's gotten to be, well, it didn't work, it was 3 times.
Oh, really?
And one flight was just horrible. The 6 a.m. flight was
Yep.
like middle of the afternoon. Because the unit was not functioning. And interestingly enough, in talking to the local Envoy manager, they tried to say it's because our runways were icy. And her and I had a discussion about that. Because the guys had definitely had cleared everything. There wasn't any problems. But we've had situations which we're tracking as well, where we had one that was had mechanical last week, and that mechanical was the 12:30-ish flight. Well, they had to wait till the 4:30-ish flight to come in with a part. So now we have all the people on the 12:30 flight in the hold room, and then the people for the 4:30 flight had arrived. But 12:30 was still waiting on the part, so they got the part. They deplaned the people from the 4:30 flight, so they went ahead and loaded the 12:30 flight, and they got to spend a wonderful another hour sitting on the plane until it got ready to go. I mean, and there's just wasn't room. They had to get those people on the aircraft because they didn't have room to clear the people for the next flight. So something we definitely will be looking at.
Mr. Chairman, Bobby, are we also tracking the number of flights that don't arrive to Roswell for whatever reason from Dallas? I understand what happened last night. Are we tracking that type of data as well? Because that's really impactful too.
Yeah, we're
This
comparing
obviously-
actual to their schedule.
Yeah, I understand the flight last night was turned around halfway here or something. Because of,
It made no sense.
yeah, for some type of winds. I don't know. I have secondhand, so wind.
But there were any wins here.
Win something. So I understand it's the second time it's happened within the last short period of time. I'm not sure.
And
how
so
long.
much that impacts us as a result of what's going on in Dallas. But it affects our passengers, and of course, our passengers rarely know why.
And the families too, right? On both
Right.
ends. So one last night, I understand, was the plane was actually already en route
It was,
and it turned around and went back.
that's correct.
And I don't know. I'm wondering how. I didn't hear enough of that. Whether that's an issue or not, or a concern.
Fortunately,
or-
a totally canceled flight doesn't happen often, but certainly delays.
the helpful, I think, maybe to see how many of that stuff is happening, so we can have that dialogue with America, with the carrier.
Last flight in, I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those people then get stacked up the next morning,
Yep.
and that's already full.
But they must, sometime during the night, they must run the aircraft in because the morning flight got off on time. So they must have brought in the flight in later.
Did they bring the passengers?
Don't know.
I don't think so, because I was expecting a person on that flight last night for a business conference, and they couldn't make it in. So that's how come I know about it. I'm just
Yeah.
curious. I've heard that from time to time where a plane doesn't get here, it's canceled or whatever, and
And they-
folks here are waiting for
Yep.
their loved ones or
Yep.
whomever, and we don't know.
And they're not
It's
very
just a-
forthcoming with the reasons.
Have you called the manager that oversees Roswell?
If we could figure out who that is.
I
Yeah.
can tell you who it is. And the manager downstairs could as well.
The manager downstairs is not trustworthy. I'll be straight up about that.
Give me a piece of paper.
There's been several questions posed to that manager and the answers are never quite accurate. If there's answers at all.
John will have a phone number too.
Oh, no, I've got his contact.
He's who they report to.
Yeah, except for he doesn't always answer either.
So you have it.
Yep. Dimitri.
Well, the structure of the airline is just that you could have to go up a few more steps than that to get somebody to make somebody answer.
And that's an embarrassing point with American, is they're,
Well, they think they're the inherent umbrella.
well, they're not.
No.
The Wall Street Journal had a pretty extensive article in January of the worst, or the best to worst airlines of the top 10. And American was down at like number 8 or 9 between Spirit and JetBlue. I mean, they were way down. Of course, Delta and United were at the top. So,
No, I've worked with him when he was here. He was terrific to work with, but since he's gone, he's gone. Yeah, we've had how many calls we've placed with to him from different ones of us for different reasons. But we'll keep chasing.
You may have to have Michelle do some research and find out who his boss is.
It's probably Massimo Mancini.
But we might jump even higher.
he's on the Envoy side,
Yes,
not the main line.
yeah, and we need to get just with the airlines.
And that's what I'm saying, Massimo's on the Envoy side.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend we, collect data before we make phone calls. Let's make sure we have our homework in order before we do
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
Because it would be embarrassing if we didn't have it all. But it appears to be somewhat of an issue at times, so I don't.
But you're gonna find that issue whether you fly Southwest, any of them. It
Oh,
happens.
yeah.
It's an airline.
Yeah.
Things happen.
So Bobby, can you report back to us next month?
Sure.
On conversations with whoever it is you finally speak to and what the outcome of the conversation was.
Certainly will. Oh, and I apologize. I wanted to, on the revenue, I wanted to report back from the thing last month with the variation on the reported revenue and the $4,000 difference. Remember that? We found out the reason for that. Sometimes the ACH deposits don't get there till a month later, but then they backdate them into the month that they're due in.
And they is city
Finance.
finance people.
So if they get an ACH payment that they don't enter in, say, the first week of the next month, then they push it back to the month that it's supposed to be in.
It's kind of bizarre.
I would think when an ACH comes in, that's when it comes in and that's when it gets reported.
But they put it in the month that it was due. I'm reporting that correctly, Ernie.
On a cash basis,
I didn't
that's
hear the
correct.
question.
Cash basis.
On the
It's when-
ACH.
When it comes in.
So the statement was, expense variables due to the timing for processing purchase card transactions, revenue changes are due to non-posted payments that have been received to the bank but not allocated to our revenue accounts yet. Primarily ACH transactions are checks from an entity without a reference department invoice to apply to the payment. And sometimes it's because they get one in that's not identified which
They
department it
can't
goes to.
tell.
So then they gotta check around.
Sure.
Yeah.
Takes time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was the reason for that, John.
All right, any other questions? I know that was a little bit off from passenger boardings,
But I have more on passenger boarding.
okay.
So 2024, we had almost 96,000 enplanements here, which is 8% increase over the prior year. So that's a good report.
Now, we had not all of 2024, did we have 3 flights though?
Then the load factor tapered slightly in 24 to 78% on a 10% increase in seats. There were 71 additional flights in 24 versus 23. So the load factors weren't impacted much, even though we had 71 more flights. So that's good.
That's good.
And should be making American pretty good money.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, anything on flight operations? Then?
That will go to Omar.
Okay.
So, flight operations in January, we had 1583, which is down from last year at this time, which was 2421. This is for January. Now, I'm thinking it's because the Navy came earlier last year, and so they were here during January. This year they're not coming until
17.
17th.
But they're here 2 weeks longer this year.
Yeah.
Right, so they're gonna be here mid-February, all of March, and then through
April.
mid-April. Okay.
Is that just the Pensacola team or group?
So we anticipate flight operations likely in the same range, February and March, but a pretty significant increase in April then, compared to last year. All right, any questions on flight operations? Okay.
Aircraft parking, we had Annie and James went out and did a inventory. And last month, we had 202 planes, which is down 40 planes compared to the year prior. We're gonna try to do an inventory maybe once a month, if not twice a month, at least for a little bit, so we can get on top of everything. We did have quite a few planes that weren't being reported or didn't have tail numbers on them, so they're kind of try to stay on top of that.
There's certainly a downward trend.
There is.
If the plane gets to the teardown, at what point do you stop counting it? Does it have to be totally cleared or?
I think it's once it's on the teardown, right?
Yes, once it's on the teardown pad itself.
Yeah. So I was telling Annie, I said, even if they're in the line to go onto the teardown pad, we're still counting them until they're actually on the teardown.
Mr. Chairman, just a question more. Do we know by the 200 and some odd airplanes that are parked out there, do we know who the owners are and what their numbers are? Or do you just have a total number?
No, we do have because we get a report with monthly report, tells us who owns the planes, what planes they are, the type of plane.
Does it also identify those that are going to tear down versus those that are just in?
I think it does, right?
They do report.
I don't know that this commission needs it, but I sure would like to see a copy of that whenever you do those monthly.
Yes, normally, the ones who own the planes are reporting to me monthly.
I'm just curious for that. Absolutely. Sit right here. No, sit right here. Sit right here.
How many of those planes of the 242 are registered where you can't determine who the owner is? Do we have any planes like that left?
There's some that when I did inventory last, like Omar was saying, a lot of the numbers are not on the aircraft. They either have sounded off or there was like 3 or 4 that I counted. So I suggested that we take pictures of them, email them to Cavu, Aircel, and the other people we have out there so we can get them identified and figure out who they are.
Before Judge Jones passed, he had tried to search that, and you had to pay a pretty hefty fee to find that information out at the country they were registered in. So I hope those are all almost gone.
Well, the good thing about the N numbers is you can look up on the FA registry.
Yeah.
Numbers.
It tells you the owner.
Or if you can just get the serial number, type it
Yeah.
into Plain
Then you-
Spotters, you'll find out
Right.
who it is.
And I did reach out to the companies, MROs. And they did say that they would help us out by putting some of the tail numbers on a piece of paper on the tires or somewhere where we could make it easier. Yeah, that way we're not having to send emails out every month. Hey, does this plane belong to you? Does this plane belong to you? You know, make it a little easier for
I think
everybody.
it should have their NREG on, or their registration until they're done.
Amy.
It should be visible.
Well, if we just look at the bar chart, ballpark, we're 30 plus aircraft fewer than what we have generally been most of last year. And that started a downward trend, especially November, December, now January. And if that's going to be the trend, the only way that we can identify anything with that is, Omar, if you can check with the MROs just to see if they're in a lull right now. I mean, just ask the question. But if we're going to be in that range, 30 aircraft fewer a month, that's quite a bit less rent that the city is going to be receiving. And we need to look at that from the standpoint of annual income. If you look at our income and expense, it's positive at least. We haven't had that in forever. But if the rent on parked aircraft is going down, that's gonna impact us, and it'd be nice to know that. So if you could do that for the next meeting, I'd appreciate it. Just identify, are we now at 200 aircraft instead of 230, give or take? John?
And just looking at this graph, in February of last year, did we raise the fee? Did that cause folks to move?
He hasn't been raised for a number of
No.
years.
A fee, no. What it costs to move one of the airplanes out of here. Raising the fee did not drive
It's just
that.
odd that 32 aircraft would have disappeared
Crushed.
in 1 month.
Well, that one,
No, it's
That'd be one a
actually-
day.
it's
I don't buy that.
It's 40 aircraft in a year that we were down. So last month, until December of 2024, we were at 206. So then in January, last month, we were at 204. So it was actually just two planes down.
That's
He's talking
No,
about
no, no,
February and
no.
March.
Which one are you talking about?
February and
in
March.
February, the
Oh, okay.
blue bar,
Yeah.
we went from 273 to 241. There ought to be an explanation for that.
well, part of
Well,
the
there is.
explanation, if you go back to 2020 and COVID, when we had a massive number of aircraft here. That were just being
Oh.
pickled.
We're
And then as the economy improves and they decide to put them back into service, that'll count some of them. They don't all come here just to die.
Yeah, people don't buy them to say, hey, let's go park them at Roswell first.
Because you just put a couple back in service.
We'll put 15 more.
So that impacts the numbers too.
Okay, well, that's a better explanation.
Or it's all about, there's no wide body hangars. So probably most of those are wide body airplanes that have left for a,
Somewhere else that has a hangar.
It's not a single reason.
that's the main reason. Otherwise, that work would be done
Yeah.
here.
All right, any other questions on aircraft parking? And Omar, if you'll take care of that, I appreciate it for next meeting.
It's a 7.6 or less, we can stick them in air cells. Bigger than that.
Okay, next item on the
Get
list,
the nose.
wind damage claim, Omar.
So they're done with hangar 85. They are on hangar 84 right now, doing the outside. Matt, have you talked to them?
WRC?
Yeah. So they're, it looks like they got maybe a couple more panels on the outside on the 84. And he says they're gonna wait till after they're done with 84 to go to Dean Baldwin. He's supposed to came up today to get his badging, everything done for the guy that he's gonna have doing the escort at Dean Baldwin once they get done at 84.
So 84, just a couple of panels. Are you talking roofing panels, side panels?
The side panels, the ones on the window where the window blew out.
Okay.
Is that Kevin?
Yes.
And so we're expecting that to be completed before the end of February.
I sure hope so. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to him again by the end of the week.
Because I thought most
They were
of
supposed
these,
to have been.
yeah, they're supposed to have been done originally in December. Okay. All right, and the Dean Baldwin, what is,
It's the side panels along the side of the hangar. I think it's on the east side and the south side of the hangar.
and that's part of the same insurance claim?
Yes.
Okay, so that likely isn't going to be finished this month.
No, I mean, I wouldn't see it before the end of the month.
It's quite a few panels.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
So we're talking into March, or do we know?
We don't know for sure, but I think in March is a good time.
Okay. And then, heaven forbid, we have another wind event right away. But then we will have completed all the repairs on the buildings from 23 and 24 wind events, right? When we get Dean Baldwin done?
They were out here last week.
Yeah, so, we have a couple of issues at 1770, and then we have a couple more things on Dean Baldwin in terms of the metal coping that goes over the rubber roofing after they complete putting the metal siding. So I think, April and May, we should have all of that complete and be done with those roof claims.
And this isn't problematic with what we just settled with the involvement and everything to do with it.
So
I thought we settled on.
we usually don't discuss legal settlements, pending legal settlements.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, so the roof on Deep Baldwin that blew off, the one that you just mentioned. So we've been up there and made sure it's gonna be okay, because we're getting ready to, because that was pretty significant. Okay.
This is kind of, it's more of edge metal. It's not structural, so.
Hasn't impacted operations.
Okay. And the roof appears to be
So-
fine.
Oh, yeah,
Upcoming
They're working in
events.
there every day.
But
The roof is secured and watertight. You just have to put the final edge metal
Okay.
around the coping.
And the TPO roof that was on that, this is now a mechanical fastener as opposed to a glue down fastener.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, any other questions of Omar or Mac? All right, let's go on to project list, ADB lighting, and I don't see Jay here, so if Lochner could talk to that, please.
So, he's got us for this last week of equipment that he's putting in the tower, and that we're going to incorporate that into our plan on getting it installed for them and for the city. So we were working with Jay on that. We're trying to get another meeting with him to talk to him a little bit more about what everything else he has going on in the tower. We originally had just were going to provide the effective communication at the tower with our project, but since he's had to revamp the whole power equipment package for the city, we're gonna help him tie that all in our project. So we've been working with him on that. We need another meeting. He was busy this week, so we'll probably have that scheduled sometime next week. And then we should try and finish up our vault. Once we get a couple of sheets put in for that, we're about 95% with all our vault plans and specs. So, hopefully within a month and a half, we'll be ready to get that out.
And so I understand the drawing here, all of the yellow highlighted and red lines, that's where the wiring has been replaced, is that correct?
All the red lines is where the wire's been replaced.
Okay,
The blue, that's primarily down Alpha all the way to Juliet. Both sides of Juliet, it's all LED, and all the distance remainder, the markers on both runways, they're both LED now. Those are in blue. The yellow is just highlighting the taxiway.
so do we have an estimate of time and or funding on how much more wiring has to be replaced?
We did just order 2 new spools of wire, so I'm not sure how much it's taking to do each circuitry. Yeah, but it looks from his map, it looks like he's got just a little bit of Charlie Hotel and Golf, and Mike, and then maybe the bottom side is Bravo, the south side of Bravo.
So if we can get Jay to update next month on how much further we have to go, that'd sure be a good idea.
Okay.
And then, just because I guess I don't know, when you've gone LED on all the stuff that's marked blue, is some of the other stuff with the new wiring that's marked red instead of blue, is that going to become LED, or is that not part of the process?
I'm pretty sure that they eventually want to go all LED.
Okay,
Yeah, but it's just with over time.
but we're talking years.
Yeah.
And since with the new wiring, it's functioning adequately now, it's not a critical thing.
Right.
Right now, all lighting and signage, probably everything on airports is going to be LEDs from now on. They're already discontinuing incandescent lighting on airports.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's going to get harder and harder to get.
Just like at Home Depot. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Tim, in that regard, wasn't there like a phase 2 project for signage? Do y'all recall? I don't know that. Yeah.
I thought it was multiple years.
Wasn't it like a multiple year?
Yeah,
it's a
it's a
multiple
3-year deal.
Yeah, was there a funding issue concern with that, or is there a plan for the funding to pay for that, and whenever that's gonna be ready? I don't know.
I'm not privy to the contract, but there.
Maybe that's something to find out.
Yeah.
Allowances per year.
Yeah, is there a requirement or a deadline by the FAA to have that stuff in place, or is it just a need? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Good questions.
Okay, any other questions on lighting project? Okay, let's go to master plan.
Sure. Mr. Chair, members, Matt Thompson, our planner, and his department, have worked with Bobby to set up a TAC meeting to go over the alternatives. And that meeting is February 18th, so we will be here, working with Bobby and her team, and our participants to, get that finalized.
And when we say finalize, that's the completion of the airport master plan.
That will be, once we get the tax last involvement, yes, we'll start working
And if I remember, of course, that had to be moved out because of the FAA.
Not me, but,
Yeah. But I think this originally, the master plan was supposed to have been finished up into December, if I remember right. So possibly the end of March, after this meeting in February.
The FAA review, I don't know, there's still, what happens after you get everything set, it goes back and the FAA will review the file.
Okay.
And it goes to the same lines of business, so I don't know the timeline.
So I'll put March or April.
Okay, we're supposed to.
All right.
the FAA's been a little sluggish.
Well, they may be more if we have more people that aren't employed there.
They're looking for plants for their office.
Okay, BLM loading pit. Where do we stand on that?
Yeah, I got that. BLM loading pit, so we got the contracts, got the bonding, insurance and agreements back to the contractor. Actually, we just got them back, so we'll be, delivering them to the air center, to Bobby and the city for signature. And we're working on an NTP. The plan is to get that one going and constructed before, it's a smaller project, get that done before fire season.
So hopefully by the end of April. Okay. All right, any questions on the loading pit for BLM?
Just one quick thing on that, Mr. Chair. Again, the starting date, we can set dates, but the contractor will tell us when they're ready, so just make that as a note. And we'll push it, don't get me wrong.
But we'll encourage them.
There you go.
Okay.
Just so you know.
All right. All right, taxiway we know is gonna wait until after fire season to give us an update on that.
Yeah, so on the taxway fire season, we did get some extra money from the DOT. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get the full lighting package. I don't know how I got misconstrued on the money that we had turned into the ask for extra money for the city. We are asking, it's in their process right now of getting that extra money to get LED lighting on that taxiway. So, we're just waiting on that. Same thing, contractor, we have, as soon as we get that, we'll get them the agreements and we'll get that whole process to work contraction.
So because we don't anticipate a construction start on that until probably September,
Right
give or take.
after, be ready to go right after.
And so we still got to get, even though we thought we had all the funding, we didn't.
No.
Okay.
They left out the lights on the ask we had.
Is ADB going to put their lights in for them? Okay, so that likely will not begin until possibly the end of September. Okay. All right. Okay. Item E, the MAP apron rehab.
That apron rehab, I got, some of the paperwork on that back. I got the bonding insurance. I have not got a signed, agreement back from the contractor. I'm anticipating getting that this week. At least that's what they told me last week. We'll get that in place, get it to the city for signature, and then we'll be looking at getting a notice to proceed on that.
And that won't impact the Navy.
No,
Okay.
we'll work around whatever's good.
Okay. And most of that is really right out here in front.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
One thing we are working with the FAA is we do have another pot of MAP funding for apron. And we had bid 3 different schedules on that, 4 different schedules. And, so we're trying to see, we've asked the FAA if we can actually use that money that's already appropriated for the apron going.
Just continue
that
on
way
with it,
yes.
right. Okay,
We were only able to do one concrete package and some of the asphalt that we had put out.
so the concrete that's suspect out there now or problematic, that's gotta be chiseled out and new concrete put in?
There's actually 3 different things. We're gonna route out every joint and reseal them. The joints haven't been sealed here in I don't know how many years. And then we're doing spall repair on some of the, just the surface cracking.
Okay.
We go down, chisel that out, and then put in, an epoxy type concrete on top of that. Then we're gonna have partial and full panel replacement, where we're just in, if it's bad enough, we're yanking it all out, putting the concrete back. The whole panel and partial.
So obviously that portion of the project is the most expensive.
Correct. Very expensive. Concrete is not cheap anymore.
No, and this is really thick concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions then on the apron rehab? So if we can get enough funding, you're saying we just continue with that rehab out towards the west? Okay. All right, Taxiway Charlie.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Taxiway Charlie is to remedy the asphalt that was identified by the Part 139 inspector out here. During COVID, some heavies were parked out there and left some asphalt damage. There was no write-up on it. They just said, just get it fixed. So this is that project to remedy that asphalt that was slightly damaged out there. And plans and specs are underway and under review by the FAA right now.
But do we have any funding for that?
This is, well, as soon as the Congress appropriate funds, we will.
Okay. So no, we don't have any.
No, sir, not right now.
Okay.
Well, we had a meeting with the FAA last week, was it?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be grant money that we would get this year, assuming that they get it, then we get it.
All right. And we've already talked about the vault, and you're saying we just need a couple panels to get that finished up?
Well, a couple of the drawings, yeah, we're adding to our set.
Okay.
We're about 95%.
And then construction, you anticipate?
If we can get this bid out, I'd say starting springtime, May-ish.
May this year. Okay.
It shouldn't impact anything. It's kind of in the middle of the airfield, so we're not going to impact any really taxes.
Okay. If we've got Moles and Corbin on, any?
Yeah, good afternoon, Council. This is Vince Payne, architect with Moles and Corbin.
Thank you, Vince, for being here. We've got some bathroom projects. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so last month we went down, we field measured everything. We've got some preliminary drawings that are in progress right now. And so my understanding is Mike Provine, who is civil engineer here, was going to be down there in Roswell. And so on Thursday this week, so we're going to ask him to bring those down and talk to Bobby about those. So this is progressing.
And if we get approval through Bobby on this, when would you anticipate that these could go out to bid?
Once we get approval, I mean, my goal per our last meeting is to try to get this out end of the month, 1st of March.
Okay. And then hopefully we can get them done within 60 days or so prior to everything that we've got with RAH coming in.
Our goal is to try to push these as fast as we can. So
right.
We
appreciate your good efforts on getting this done. Has anybody on the commission had a chance to look at the drawings at all? Okay. It's pretty simple, but probably immediately after this meeting, let's at least have a conversation with Bobby on this. So it'll just take a couple minutes.
Yeah, essentially the large restroom group, we've got to move some walls a little bit to get our ADA clearances. But essentially most of those, it's architectural finishes replacement. We're also going to replace, plumbing fixtures and replace piping and walls, that kind of thing. You're going to end up with 2 new restrooms. The 2 little restrooms that are down by the rental car area, those are so out of ADA compliance that we're going to have to take that one office out and utilize that space. One of the big questions that came up is right now the entrance into those restrooms is in that vestibule down by the rental car area, and we want to move it out of that vestibule and actually move it into the terminal building. And so there was some questions whether that was going to be problematic or not.
When you said there were questions that it might be problematic, what were the answers you received on that?
I haven't received any answers. It was more of a, do you want to keep that entry in the vestibule, or is it okay for us to move it into the facility as far as inside the double doors?
I bet Bobby can have an answer for you on that when you come down.
Yeah, and Mike will, like I said, Mike will be down there, I think, on Thursday, and
right.
If we can get resolution on that, that's the only real thing that's kind of holding us up. Then we've got our marching orders and we'll proceed.
All right. Any other questions for Vince? Vince, thank you. Appreciate your work on this.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Mac, can you give us an update on the water line?
Sure. I spoke with Lewis at our engineering department this morning. The contractor working on the water line is still addressing emergency water repairs throughout the city. So that work is on hold for a couple of months. They have made a lot of progress on the design for the sewer line to the southeast corner. And so they expect the sewer line bid to come out at the beginning of March. And then City Council is considering funding to New Mexico Gas Company to run gas to the southeast corner concurrently with the sewer and the water line.
So when you say, the folks installing the water line, really we're probably looking at end of March or early April before they're going to be off some of the city stuff to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mark, I don't remember, who are the broadband carriers that's going to have a conduit in Finch? Who are what carriers?
They've been working with Plateau, and I believe the plan is for Plateau to put some conduit to the ditch alongside some of the other utilities, so that
They can just pull wire. So it's just Plateau?
yeah, that's all.
Okay. So I thought I heard 2 companies so before. There were 2, right?
Yeah. Lewis last week said they were dropping 2 clean lines out there.
Yeah. I'm just curious who those carriers are. No.
There'll be 2 carriers out there.
Well, that's good because we need to be able to get it.
It might be Sparkline and it might be Lumen. CenturyLink. Okay.
Would you next time just let us know when that was? I'm just good information.
I'll double check on that.
Thank you.
So review for me because I didn't get it all down. what all is going to go into these trenches?
So, the plan is to run, all utilities to the southeast corner. Gas, water, sewer, fiber, and then you'll also have electric as well.
But the electric will come from outside, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that will go to the southeast corner where potentially we're going to have something going on. Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, Mac, update us on the grandstand construction.
Yeah, so we had a good in-person meeting on January 16th with some members of the air races and air stair staff. And we confirmed some of the final details for the grandstands and discussed the schedule moving forward with Sturdy Steel. And so the plan is to start the foundation work for the grandstands at the beginning of March. And then they'll have steel delivered mid to late March. And then they'll start steel erection probably in late March.
Steel erection in late March, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And build time? 3 months?
Yeah, I
20
mean,
weeks.
it's 3 to 4 months.
It's 20 weeks on it.
Okay.
So they reiterated that we're still looking really good in terms of meeting our deadline to host the air races.
Well, if it's 20 weeks, that's the end of August if we start late March.
Right. But
And-
they,
And we're into September.
they're working to compress that 20 weeks
Okay.
as much as they can. So 20 weeks is a generous estimate.
They've already started working on their security badging where the workers, rebar is gonna come in next week. So some of the things have moved up a little bit.
Okay.
And they run into the penalties after September 1, so they're moving.
Yeah, but we hope it's completed
Yeah, they,
well before September 1.
well, they thought they'd be done in August.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on grandstand? And Don, you don't see any problems with badging with these folks so far?
We're seeing by radio system.
Okay. All right. I guess both Mac and Omar, let's talk about where we are with flood damage.
Sure, I'll start us off. So ultimately, the self-insured fund and our insurance carriers have determined that the city's flood loss is a limits loss. That wasn't clear initially because of the layers of insurance. But it is an insurance loss, and we've been meeting with the self-insured fund weekly, and we've been working on finalizing a global unallocated settlement for this limits loss, essentially check. And we expect final payment on the city of Roswell floodplain, very soon. And once we receive that payment, we can then work with finance and turn around and begin some of these critical repairs. So, because it's a limits loss, we also have to work with FEMA. So we've been working with air center staff and our consultants. We have to report all of the damages from the flood citywide. We have to do that by February 10th. So we're working on that. And then we've also started some of this isn't exactly FEMA's wording for it, but we've started some of the reimbursement requests on some of our larger ticket flood mitigation items. So we're working through that as well.
Just for my knowledge, where is the terminal building in the stack up for this stuff? To get it repaired?
It's a high priority. You know, I think things are changing quickly. But getting the terminal building repaired is definitely a high priority. I think we can get it done with the help of our insurance funding. It shouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Any other questions for flood damage? Omar, have you got anything to add to that?
I know.
So right now, we're just saying the terminal building is a high priority.
Yeah, and I think
And you're thinking there's adequate funds to fix it?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Fisher.
Hey, good afternoon. I received the latest map of what the proposed race layout's going to be, and based upon that, we're currently starting to document what our security requirements are going to be at the airport, which may have been. My goal, and we will get it to TSA in mid-March timeframe, which exceeds the 45-day requirement they have. Depending upon feedback back and forth between us, we have that finalized well before the May races. This plan will also be used as the blueprint for how we're going to go ahead and tackle the September event as well. So we'll learn some things hopefully along the way. If we need to update or modify that amendment, we certainly will. That's what my office is appointed right now.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Fisher?
You want to talk Boeing?
I'm sorry.
Boeing.
Boeing is scheduled to be here in March. That schedule is still kind of fluid, as well as how many people they're bringing down. But we are coordinating with them, working with them, trying to get them badged and get them access. But the exact date that they'll be on the ground is still up in here.
And that's for brake testing?
Yes, sir, on their new 777.
And that will impact
Now we'll have to
coordinate.
Yeah, the Navy's gonna do 150 sorties a day, so somewhere in there, Boeing's gonna test brakes.
Okay. And that's a tower thing, right?
That's a tower thing.
Just don't connect the dots.
All right. Okay, Paul, airfield conditions.
Conditions, good afternoon, everybody. Dale is wrapping up the fence repair out there. I think he spoke to Omar today. The only thing I have in question is, there's a fence, we have a couple of fence panels that are laying up against, a spot in the fence. It's not our perimeter fence. There was an accident that took place there. I was just wondering, is he gonna fix that or not? It's just probably about, 30 feet maybe? I don't see why he can't do it. I don't know if we spoke to him about fixing that.
Do we still have that PO in place for that one?
That one, because it's outside of the anyway, was something that my office did generate the PO on.
I have to get with him on that one.
Other than that, what we have is, as has been mentioned, we have the Navy coming. So we're going to be cleaning the ramp where they generally park at. So we got a lot of work to do out there the rest of this week and into next week, and just getting prepared for them. We also have rubber removal that we have to start on 321 to do, which is kind of a huge task. And we have a machine that's kind of constantly breaks down. I've gotten pretty good at fixing O-rings on it. You know what I mean? When I'm out there in it, it's kind of a hassle, but they're known to do that, from what I understand. It's a really tedious job, but we'll see how long the machine lasts to make that get that job done.
And is this a scrubber machine that gets
High pressure water.
rubber?
High pressure water is what it is. That's doing it. It's got a pickup head and a cutter head. It's high pressure water that shoots down. It's got a pickup head that pulls out the rubber and sends it back to a filter. But it's continuously breaking down on us out there. We'd only do like 1 or 2 passes and then we're down.
I think it shoots the water at, what's the PSI on?
I think it's like 80,000. High, very high pressure water.
That didn't tear the runway up?
No, so it's going this. So it's like it's called cyclone because the head spins. So when the water's coming out, spinning, I mean, it'll tear up the runway if you're not careful. If you don't know
You gotta know
what you're doing with it, it'll leave cuts in the runway.
Yeah, you don't turn on the cutter head unless you're actually moving, you know, and then you adjust your speed as you're moving to account for what it's cutting. You know what I mean?
It's a pretty neat machine to watch when it's working.
Just because I probably don't understand or know why we're doing this, can you give me a thumbnail on why we have to do this?
So if we don't take the rubber off of the runway, it causes the runway to be slick whenever there's water or anything that's on the runway. It'll cause the runway to be slicker with the rubber on there.
Is this worse because we've got a grooved runway?
No, it's
So-
this is on the concrete
It's
runway.
on concrete, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
It's amazing how much rubber those tires leave every time and everything.
Yeah, just about the military planes that are out here. When the Navy's here, they'll leave a bunch.
A lot of touching goes, and it doesn't take long after we clean it to go back out.
So how often do you have to do this? Is it an annual deal, or is it 6 months, or is this?
We were trying to do it every 3 months, this past year.
Okay.
It's more on operations than calendar.
Yeah, so from a equipment perspective, if that equipment's failing, do we have plans to, is that the most current type of equipment? Is it expensive? Do we need to forecast replacement?
Very expensive.
So it's something we need to put on our wish list, I guess, because it keeps breaking down.
$1 million?
It's about $1 million.
Yeah, we gotta think about.
And the machine that we have is probably one of the first machines that they came out with.
It's the first gen.
So it's
I'll look up
15 years
cost.
old already?
Yeah, it's 12. The 2012.
And that's my point, is we need to plan ahead, because if this is the only thing we've got and it's that old, and we have to do this, whatever.
You have to do it.
We gotta do it. We better.
Gotta have that
I
equipment.
want to check cost of new equipment. Also, there's companies that come and do it. So
Yes.
Yeah,
Even better.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Even
Is if-
better.
Even better, yeah.
It'd be better just to contract it out, have somebody do it.
Yeah, even better.
Since manpower wise, because we don't really, I mean, we're short staffed as it is, and it'll take probably a week and a half to go out there and do.
Maybe give some estimations and. Thank you.
You need to report back to us next month?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
I have one item.
Go ahead. Matt.
With Boeing coming, the ramp out between the terminal and the snow shed,
Mhm.
full of fog. I
Yeah.
mean, to the point where, is there any way to get that swept up?
Yeah. And
I mean, it's bad.
I think that's what they're gonna be working on, that area and the other area by, where the Navy parks.
Yeah.
Before the Navy gets here, they need to go ahead and do that.
That's not as bad. I mean, it's pretty bad out there. I don't know where all that stuff's coming from.
It came from the snow, when we were taking it to the snow, moving the snow out of the way.
Oh, you pushed it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know where?
The ramp's not in great shape, and the crack seal that's in the cracks it's coming up. So
Yeah, that
going through there, removing the snow just didn't help it.
makes
Maybe
sense.
just some regular rains that we get, the rains, you know, and send rocks across the taxiways, it's a lot of.
I was picking up rocks like that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna wear out our new sweeper, are you?
No.
I hope they do. That's what it's
All right,
for.
Michelle, you're up.
All right, so my vacant property report, as you can see, I have 2 of them that are highlighted. That is to say that I have secured 2 leases. And then now we do have building 93 since Place for Tots is gone. And then I am gonna have one that I'm gonna add to the vacant report, but it won't be until the end of March. So Aircel Building 92 has given their notice to vacate.
You're saying building 92?
Yes, Building 92.
I thought we were doing a new lease with them.
They decided to do a notice to vacate, so the end of March they will vacate.
New lease on the other 2 buildings.
Okay.
And then I do have a viewing tomorrow for another, possible renting of another T hanger. And, he wants to see 120, Space One. So I will be showing him that one tomorrow. So if he likes it, then, I could probably get him at least going as well.
So the T hanger, folks that are wanting to lease those, does that have to do with the air show?
No, the one that rented is because he's gotten a new, plane. So he needed a place to store it, so he came.
All right.
And the gentleman I'm talking with tomorrow, the same thing, he has a plane that he's bringing in.
And then the large building that's been vacant, and I've forgotten the number, is it 611?
611 is FEMA.
Okay,
FEMA still is occupying.
and then what about the large office building, warehouse storage at the end of it? at the back?
1083.
Okay,
Still vacant.
and have we had any activity from the extra money we're spending on
I've
trying to
only
get that?
had one, but it wasn't even a lead, so that was it.
So from the standpoint, we've used this marketing stuff for 60 days?
Yes, we have a 6-month contract, and after that, then we don't renew after the 6 months.
And right now, based on what we're seeing, there's not any real reason to renew that contract.
No, we gave it a shot and was a dead end, so.
Okay. Any questions on that at all? Because that contract, if I remember right, wasn't that costing us a couple thousand a month?
It's $1,000 a month
$1,000 a month. So $6,000.
for the 6 months.
Okay. All right. Well, if something does pan out, obviously we may want to extend that, but it just doesn't look like we'll have that happen.
Right.
Okay. Any questions then on the vacant property report?
I have one. 1081 says fire lockout. Instead of. Is that because you can't rent it because of that, or?
One part of it is rentable, and the other side, Omar, you said is the HVAC. HVAC is new, but no heating, or is it vice versa?
I think it had heat.
It has heat, but no AC. Yeah, that's right. It has no HVAC in it.
Okay, and that's because of the fire lockout.
I believe so. Is there a fire in
Probably the fire alarm.
We need to identify what the difficulty is with that. If that's not correct, let's get it corrected on our report. Yeah, to me, Matt, it's a good question. To me, fire lockout means we had a fire and so nobody can use it. That's what that means. And I don't know that that's the case. Yeah.
I mean, you got 115 down for fire. We know there was a fire.
That's the big office building. PMC, that's what that building. And so I'm not aware that there's any fire in that at all.
Yeah. I'll look at it.
It's
And then I
probably
can
the
change it.
fire alarm.
Fire alarm system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Yeah, if you've got, Michelle, if you've got something like that, which is unique on this report, make sure that we know what it is. If it's just an alarm that's not working, then that's different from something else.
The whole system.
I just left it as Jen.
Okay, and then any questions on the, do you have any comments on the police summary report?
No, I already spoke here, so put their notice to vacate, so, we're still working. I did secure Air Methods, executed today. I'm working on Bravo's lease. He is staying again. And then, the same with, the Cabu and Aircel and Red Mountain.
Okay, and, the building 240? That would,
Yes, we're in negotiations with them.
okay,
So we're to see leases by the end of the week.
okay. And these are the only leases that are currently in flux?
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, question, on Red Mountain Arsenal, that building 60, so signed payment plans, are we on a good path forward to getting them where they need to be? Because they were in arrears with them.
They signed an agreement to pay their monthly rent plus what they were in arrears.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the lease summary report? Okay. Ms. Butler, it's your turn. Thank you, first of all, thank you for being here and updating us. Appreciate it.
So, Aircel's still moving forward. We've had some economic downturns and had to do some restructuring of our facility here in Roswell. We're still working with the grant to get scholarships to the schools and continue our program to try and get kids into aviation. Our JTIPS program is going to be set aside for now because we do not have the work coming in that we were expecting to have. Part of that is Air Wisconsin's contract with American has been pulled as of April, sometime in early April. So they will no longer have the contract with American to fly their CRJ-200s. They do intend to fly kind of college basketball type stuff, but they are not intending to come back to Roswell for their heavy checks. We're currently working on keeping everything in storage and doing our storage program and working with the teardown program.
What about employee numbers?
We've had a significant reduction in workforce.
And you don't have a handle on when that may increase again?
At this point in time, no, although we do have a new sales gentleman who's working for the MRO airframe side of the house to try and bring work into our facility and the other facilities that we have, Goodyear and Millington, Tennessee.
So have a bunch of those folks had to move out of the area?
So I'm not sure that they've all left. I know several of them have gone to Dean Baldwin and to Cabu. I've also mentioned to them that Gen Air support was looking for people. We're trying to keep them in the area. There may be a handful that have departed, but most of them want to stay here. They want to stay in Roswell.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. Yeah, keeping folks here is obviously a good thing, hopefully for AirSale also. Okay, any questions for Amy? That was probably a hard report to give.
Very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. No questions for Amy? All right, Amy, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate AirSale being here. Thank you.
Keep smiling. It'll be all right.
Okay, Mr. Espiritu, you have an update.
I'm gonna defer to Bobby and John, and then I'll fill in the blanks with other stuff that they don't cover. So because there's a map on the back, and I think Bobby would probably like to share that. Bobby, just share.
Now there's a map on the screen.
And a map on the
Okay.
screen. There you go.
So this is the current program for the layout of the famous taco chip. There'll still be some modifications as we learn more and do more, but the area that you see engaged there is about 84 acres of land. The blue checkered lines are fence and K-rails that will then secure the area with the inclusion of also security guards. We have a lot of security personnel. Hangars 15, 31, and 32, which are within those dotted lines. We'll be subleasing from Avflight for the storage of the biplanes and the Formula Ones, which of course are small aircraft. If you look, the purple vertical line is the extended apron area that we've met with Secretary Cerna of the DOT multiple times about now for funding for materials and labor to get that installed. It's just under 3,900 feet long and 100 feet wide, and it is currently spec'd to go to 100,000 feet of weight-bearing capacity. You'll see the big red dot, which will be the location of the start-finish pylon, and then that line goes across to where the grandstands we built. And it kind of helps you get a scale when you look at the grandstand that's almost 10,000 people and how small it appears on that map. Kind of gives you an idea. The pit area where you see the checkered board, that is going to be modified somewhat. There will be 120 individual slots for the teams in there. And then, of course, like I say, the small aircraft will be in the hangars. Then the yellow with looks like black stripes. Always, there's a lot of equipment for these aircraft, a lot of parts. So that is a parking area for the crews. If you look just on that south side, you'll see two red lines coming down. That will be an entrance for crews. So what we've worked very hard to do is always with safety in mind, is so the crews can come in directly at a separate entrance from the public to always deconflict. And then as you go south of the pit area towards Taxiway Charlie, no props will turn until they get on the taxiway, so there'll be no people anywhere near. And then you'll see that's marked as fueling area. So as the aircraft come back in from their flights, they will stop there and get refueled before going back to their pit. Again, no fueling around spectators, no props around spectators, and no cars moving around spectators, all with safety in mind. As you see that kind of red horseshoe, that's the main gate area. Then just to the south of that is a lane we'll keep open at all times for emergency vehicle ingress and egress. Then as you come in, you see an area for STEM. We've had multiple meetings. Our guy that handles STEM for us, who, as I like to say, is the Energizer Bunny on caffeine. The guy's got so much energy, it's scary. He's talked to a lot of the local schools, had just excellent results. He at this time is anticipating over 10,000 students to go through our STEM program from the local and regional area. And that may grow yet because he's still talking to more folks.
And Bobby, he's going to be returning in March.
Yes.
And we'll have meetings set up with other school districts around the region.
And that's why I anticipate that number could grow. Now, the way the STEM program works is we do that on Friday afternoons so the school buses can transport the children in and out. And of course, we don't charge them whatsoever. And that's also what we call our Military Appreciation Days. So current and previous guys have their DD-214s. We allow them to come in with no charge as well. Then we have the military static display just north of the green area, that bright green, alien green area. And that will support, we bring in a lot of military that's on static for people to see. Probably was more important in other areas. Here we get a lot of military every day, but I guess the public doesn't get to see it as often as I get to see it. Then we'll have a number of concessions, everything from high-end artwork to mini donuts and hot dogs, shirts, a lot of apparel kind of stuff. And that'll be not only the air race merchandise, but also the vendor merchandise as well. If you look at the green area with the letter C on it, that's in front of the FBO operations. That is where the transit aircraft will park. We've identified 400 spaces over there to park. As you go just outside the fenced area and you see all the little parking things marked off. There's over 500 RV parking areas and then about 12,000 auto parking areas on the property. We're working with a professional parking gentleman. And you would just be amazed how passionate he gets about parking cars, and we're very lucky to have him involved because he really knows about traffic flow and how to make it better so people don't spend their entire day at the races trying to get in or out.
To park.
That's correct. The yellow vertical line next to the runway is our Stoll drag course. And it literally is a drag course. 2 aircraft take off, they race to the other end, they land, they spin around and race back. It's something to see and prepare to laugh because it's pretty entertaining. So be happy to entertain any additional questions about the layout.
Bobby, one of my neighbors is Guy Tipton, and I asked him the other day if he had been in touch with you. They own the old Levi's facility, and there's a lot of parking there. And has he gotten in touch with you?
No.
I spoke with Guy. In fact, he's going to be back in my office next week. So he's going to do some dry camping for RVs in his lot. So
Okay.
he did that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, we'll provide that too. I'll talk more about that part of that kind of stuff in a minute.
Okay. John, have you got anything to add to Bobby's report then?
We went down to Artesia on Tuesday, January 21st, and had an excellent meeting with their chamber executive, Haley Klein, who I didn't realize she had also just been elected a county commissioner in Eddy County. So the county manager for Eddy County attended, several of their local city councilors. So they're totally excited about participating and assisting with anything they can provide to support us in our effort. The other thing I'm working primarily on right now with Tony is our filings with the Secretary of State, tax and rev, to get them set up for handling gross receipts, tax, and things that aren't fun. But that's what we're focused on, or I am right now with Tony.
And Mike, you may be able to address this. One of the questions that I've been asked is consistently, just by the public, how are we going to feed all these people?
Food.
Yeah, I realize food, but
I'll address that here in just a second.
Okay.
First, I want to again comment about Secretary Cerna and his support. I mean, it's over the top support. So it first started out as we may do a training event there, and on that turned into we'll pay for the materials, and then we said, well, it might be a little more than that. He goes, well, we'll take care of that. And he said, and if we can't do it as a training event, we'll contract it, but we'll get it done. He's been fabulous. And Francisco in your shop and others, he had his highway guy Rick Padilla come down, and when we went out to the tortilla chip and they surveyed it, and they said, well, it's a lot of work, but they're committed to it. So, we'll make sure that the secretary gets the letter. But we visited with him and the governor, Secretary of Tourism, myself and Bobby and Fred Telling, and still nothing but great support. What we've been doing is really working towards getting the communities in the region ready for NCAR, because you still go out and talk to people. They heard about the races, but they don't have a clue what the impact's going to be on their business or their lives, including food service and where to stay and so forth. So one of the areas that we've been working on with area regional chambers and economic development agencies, because we held some calls. We actually went and visited every single one of them. And we are creating some links on our website as well as the RARA website, where people can go to a map and click on the city of Artesia, for example, and they'll take them to Artesia's website, and they'll show where to stay, where to eat, where to play, and all these different things. So we'll have that main link on our side and also on RARA. So I think it's a good way to get information out, because people that's never been here to our area, they won't know where to go. And we've got to make it easy for them to find out so they'll come back. Yeah, so it's really important. So our plan is to have that live by the middle of March, because we know that May is not a spectator event, but we certainly want to get that word out to people as soon as we can. Ticket sales are not going on right now. They're still working out through the challenges of the seating, and that's going to happen. I mentioned that because there are sites out there that are maliciously selling tickets to the air races in September in Roswell, Georgia, at the Performing Arts Center. So people are buying tickets, and they find out they can't get a refund, and I called, and I know you know about this, Bobby. I talked to Tony in Reno, and he says we're aware of it, because my first thought was, you guys know this is happening, and they do, but there's not a darn thing they can do about it. And these third-party companies sell tickets to an event that they have no control of, or what have you. But anyway, make you aware of that.
That happens with a number of air shows.
So make you aware of that. Tickets are not on sale yet, but they will be probably by the end of February, is what they anticipate. So don't buy any tickets online, please. Excuse me. The end of February, we'll be having a volunteer event. I don't know what to call it, but we're going to pretty much invite people from throughout the region, throughout Roswell, to come to a reception, and we're going to talk about volunteers and how you can kind of sign up. I'm getting calls. I get calls, not daily, but regularly, about people wanting to volunteer and do this. And by that time, we plan to have some great information where people can sign up. We'll have many job descriptions on identifying what those tasks are, and then get them to work. Because in May, they're going to need some volunteers to help, and which is good, because in May, during the training, it will be a good time to train also volunteers, because there's some things they just can't do until September, but they can do in May to get ready for September. So that's going to be pretty important. January 13th, next week, the EDC, did I say January? Thank you. I wrote 2024 on that report just the other day. February 13th, next week, we are hosting EDC is hosting a seminar, business seminar for people in town, and it also includes folks in Artesia, because they're actually going to go to Artesia that afternoon. It's about getting ready for NCAR. What you may need to know, it's also about customer service. The city's going to send a bunch of folks. We've got so far about 24 people signed up, but we do anticipate that there'll be a large interest on what do we need to do, because we may know that there's going to be races happening in September, but we don't know the impact that's going to have. I mean, even in May, with several hundred people, sometimes you may have to wait a few minutes for a table in Roswell today. Can you imagine just in May with just a couple hundred, and then in September with a few thousand people? So we've got to kind of start getting ready, getting our communities ready to accept that. So other than that, that concludes my part of the report. I'd be happy to answer questions.
And kind of going along with that same thing, on February the 27th, Fred is telling us going to be speaking to the Main Street Roswell, to the business that belong to that, to help those businesses kind of get an understanding of what's happening, and ask questions. On February the 19th, I'll be speaking at a lunch in your office, I guess. Oh no, it's at the Elks. At the Elks to the Republican Women's Club, to let them know what's happening with the races and answer all the questions that they may have. And it's not just for their membership. They've opened it up to anyone that wants to attend. And it is a luncheon, so you can actually get lunch as well. And then I think that we'll probably even step up the number of those presentations just to get information out to people. And a lot of posters going up around town. And I understand Juliana Harvison, we just sent her some digital stuff so she can post it digitally as well. And then Thursday morning this week, we've got the survey information's done, so we'll be reviewing that on Thursday morning. That'll be all the elevations, topography of the areas, so that we can get them with the county who's going to be doing the chip sealing and start getting that in process, because we certainly need that done before May. So there's just one or two things going on.
And we've been also out visiting. I've been to so many civic groups and clubs in the region. In fact, tomorrow I'm headed down to Carlsbad to speak to their Rotary Club So all about getting the word out and what this really means to people in the new area. But everyone, and everywhere I go, people are excited. They want to learn more. And so if you have folks that don't know where to turn for answers, call my office. Happy to talk with folks. And Kristen there, we can answer questions or get you the answers, because it's real important to get the right information out, especially those ticket sales that I mentioned earlier. So, but yeah, there's just a couple things going on.
219 days for who's counting?
Mike, just a couple of questions. I know from the standpoint of, well, first of all, do we have somebody's best guesstimate of how many folks may be here that week?
Which week?
The week of the races.
Race week?
50 to 60,000.
50 to 60 to 70,000 people.
Okay, because there was 80 in Reno, but there was places for them to stay in Reno.
Well, and that's the reason we are tackling this from a regional perspective.
Right.
We've met with Ruidoso, we've met with Artesia, we met with Carlsbad, we went to Portales, we went to Clover. I mean, we've done all this, and that's the reason for these website links, so people can get information on where they can stay. It's kind of like Oshkosh. Oshkosh, it's a big event, right, Bobby? Big aviation event. But the issue is you got to know where to figure out how and where to stay, because they don't have a lot of rooms there at Oshkosh. So there's the same thing that we have, same challenge we have. So we've got to make sure it's out there. I think the first year is pivotal because we got to make it easy for people to find stuff this first year. We want to come back. And if they can't figure it out this first year, they probably will never. They may not ever come. We don't know. So our goal is to work with our regional communities and our chambers and our EDOs to help get that word out. On what they have, because it's easy to say something about Artesia, but I would rather have Artesia talk about Artesia, okay? And each town talk about their own thing, their own hotels, and by the way, it's not just a list; it's a list with links to that hotel, links to that place to eat. So we'll have all those pieces, including transportation and services, medical, all kinds of services. So we make it simple for people to find their way around these other cities, including ours.
So because I haven't been involved in that at all, there won't be 60,000 people here every day the week of the races. Will there be?
Saturday.
Just for the races?
Saturday, yeah.
So having a partner that owns some Subways, and the only way that they get product to Roswell to make Subways for the normal population is on a couple trucks a week. So if we're going to have that many people here, they're going to stay somewhere else. Sometime between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, they're going to want something to eat.
Now with 80 plus vendors on the field, but people come early, they eat breakfast, they drink coffee, they eat lunch. Sometimes they do their dinner on the field if it's available. We've also talked about working with food trucks to be located around in the RV parking areas to provide food for those people that are, don't want to pull a camper out and go look for food. But yes, the restaurants are going to be overwhelmed. There's just no question about it.
And what I'm saying is the trucks that bring food to Roswell, because we don't produce it here. They bring stuff in for the restaurants and the grocery stores. And those shelves are going to be bare.
So Saul Aguilar, and some of you may know Saul, he's the owner of Antiguas and Cerritos restaurants. Right. He's our food and beverage guy. And he has been working with the food and beverage guy in Reno, who's also going to be coming down. And we're going to be having a separate event just for food and beverage people, suppliers, providers, restaurateurs, so on and so forth, right here about the same thing, about getting ready. Because they have to start preparing for that early, as you really to your point is, you can't just say, hey, tomorrow I need blah, blah, blah. It won't be here.
Yeah.
They got to plan weeks in advance because the suppliers have to provide that. So we are working on that as well.
Okay. That was my question.
It is a big
That
issue.
many people, I mean, housing, they're gonna go out other places. They're gonna eat here.
Well, I already got the liquor guys lined up, so we're good. Just saying.
Yeah, you know, you serve 1,000 people a day normally, you might plan on 5,000.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, based on the economic impact study for the last 40 years, the average spend in Reno, not gambling, the average spend for hotel and food was $700 to $900 a day per person.
Per person.
I don't have grocery receipts taxes.
It's already helping with our hotel rooms going for $450 a night, so
Yeah.
they're all gone, so we should already see some.
How full is
return on that.
Artesian now, do you know?
Not full yet, but getting close.
Okay, unless anyone has anything else. Last item on our list today is the unveiling of the monument that's in a plastic bag out there right now. Monument was set up 2 weeks ago, I think. So that unveiling and the ceremony that will take place will be at 1:30, February the 16th, which is a Sunday afternoon. It's not during the week, Sunday afternoon, 1:30, February 16th. And so as much support from the city officials and from anybody that's in business out here, it'd be great to have you guys down from Albuquerque, but I understand. So as much support as we can give for this, that would sure be important. This lady, Mrs. Kritz, has funded this entire thing herself and done all the research. And it's a labor of love to basically memorialize those men that were killed building these Atlas missile sites.
And the date and time will be exactly 60 years.
So since we've got our newspaper here, can you make sure that we've got something in the Wednesday paper, maybe Wednesday and Friday prior to that
Probably
Sunday?
it'll be closer to Thursday and Friday.
Okay, and then possibly in Sunday's paper also, since this is in the afternoon.
I probably can't guarantee that, but it'll probably get mentioned just by virtue that it's coming up.
Okay, if you can do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right, unless anybody has anything else, do we have any comments from any commissioners? No comments. What about comments or reports from the public or any of the staff?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I did have a comment.
Okay.
I was approached by one of our city councilors who made a comment that, you know, as we look towards all this development that's happening out here at the Air Center, the southeast corner, rah-rah, and we've gone through Builtwise and that shenanigans with the FAA. As we move to the future on future economic development activities, that I don't know if there's a way, but there's got to be a way to break the code on how we get FAA to be a little more forthcoming to support our needs. And I don't know what that really means. I probably don't even want to talk about it, except I know it's darn hard to get stuff moving. And I just like to think that we can help speed it along in some regards. Because as you know, for companies, time is money. And if we can't move on something, they'll go someplace else.
So you get a hold of Elon Musk.
You know, I just want to make that comment because I think it's important because, you know, we're going to do a lot of stuff out here and we've got to make it easier. We're not, you know, unintentionally holding it up because that's so impactful for business.
Well, and I would say too, a couple of things. First of all, I think that will improve now that people actually be in the office working as opposed to required 1 day a week. And I think the other thing that I found in decades of working with the FAA and those in the room that have also worked with them, they don't do anything unless you keep after them. And when we first heard in an early meeting with folks in Fort Worth, we found out since 1967, they were bragging about $55 million to the Roswell Air Center. That's nothing. That was less than $1 million a year. In airport grant terms, that's nothing. And as you all know, the state's done much better. But you don't get it if you don't ask. And I think we just have to get, as you pointed out, we have to get much more aggressive and engaged with them to get more money for the very important projects that we have to do here. Because this airport has a wonderful future, but only if we all work together to make that happen. And I think that what we have to do is everyone work together to put that pressure on. We have to have that vision, and we have to constantly point out that this airport is the finest airport in the south of New Mexico, and it could be the best in the state. We just got to make it happen.
What I just said was kind of facetious, but we've got 2 board members here and running EDC. And if Fred Telling was to send a letter to Elon Musk and tell, he doesn't know this thing was moved here, probably, but look at all the stuff he's doing. And if we could get somebody like that to acknowledge what's going on here, I can't believe but that would help. So just the thought, if Fred would be in favor of doing something like that.
And her dad.
Y'all can decide that. Yeah.
I'm just curious, have we learned how Clovis managed to obtain the, what, that $37 million?
25.
45?
25.
25, well, that's still
Still
their
much.
terminal.
Well, what I have learned about that, and it was under the manager before the current manager, they actually, their hold area was pretty much sit on the floor. And they were clever enough to do photos of showing that. And Mr. Fish and I may have had a conversation about doing some pictures here and some of the video that we have in security to show how crowded our place can get. So it's a campaign that we have to do as well. And we really do have some good plans that were done in previous years here about how to expand the terminal. We did apply for a bill grant for $61 million for a new terminal, but I think our chances of getting an expanded terminal are better than a new terminal. But again, it's one of those things that constantly beat the drums and keep after.
Good point. Good point. Okay, let's go back to comments. Any additional comments from staff, public participation from anyone? If we don't have any additional comments, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved. Been moved, seconded. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for your participation.